You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. Folks, tonight it's going to be a little funny and it's going to be a little sad. But nevertheless, needs to be, and so it will. I heard from California today the 800 number for the Constitution Party was ringing literally off the wall. Hundreds of calls. So I want to assure those of you who tried calling and were not able to get through, this was the first day that the number was in service. And because of that, everybody across the United States were all trying to call. So I know that some of you were not able to get through. And those of you who did, I understand you got some information and you also expressed your joy and pleasure at being able to have a party that is not like the others and backs the Constitution and isn't a populist thing or any of these other perversions of what the Constitution should be. So that made me very happy. It made the people in California very happy. It made all of us, the founders of the Constitution Party, extremely happy. For those of you who didn't get the number, it's 1-800-932-9888. That's 1-800-932-9888. I had to tell you a little story about this 800 number. The first number that was given to us was 8666. And because it had that 3 sixes in there, we knew automatically that it would cause a great upheaval out there with the people who are very superstitious and inclined to fall into these traps. It was given to us by the telephone company. We had nothing to do with it, but on the basis of what we knew would happen out there in public land, or I should say sheeple land, of course not with most of the good listeners of this program, they would have gone berserk just over that 666, the phone number. So we sent it back and got a new phone number, 1-800-932-9888. That's 1-800-932-9888. If you want to write for information, write to the Constitution Party. Constitution Party. Post Office Box 7565, Beverly Hills, California, 90212. That's P.O. Box 7565, Beverly Hills, California, 90212. Well, we're going to go on a little trip into La La Land with the Woo Woo Boys tonight. So strap yourselves in your seats. Here we go, folks. Boy, that pulled the skin back off my jowls. How about you guys? Well, we heard from the La La Land and the Woo Woo Boys today. And so I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. It's extremely important, I believe, to talk about things like this because all of you have to understand where we're at, where we're going, who's going to hold us back, who's going to oppose it, who's going to cause dissension in the ranks, who's going to try to sidetrack us on silly little issues, and who the dangerous people are. I think it's important that we talk about these things. I've been doing this for years. The first time I opened my mouth in 1976, I was attacked viciously twice. Had the side of my head caved in, and the second attack ended up losing my left leg. I've been fighting this battle for a long, long time. I think I've told you people before that I came to grips with death in Vietnam. It doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid. The police in Phoenix found that out. Not only was I not afraid, but my family was not afraid. When they gassed our room, it was horrible. Literally horrible. You cannot imagine if you've never been gassed inside of a very small, confined space. I gave my wife and daughter the choice to go out of the room. My wife refused to leave. My daughter looked up at me with eyes that I know could not see, brimming over with mucus and tears, swollen, barely able to breathe, trying valiantly to hold a wet towel over her face so that she would not be completely incapacitated. And she said, "No, Poppy, I want to stay with you." We've been in this fight for a long time. We've been lied about. We've been called every name in the book that you can possibly dream of. There isn't any name that anybody can call us that we haven't heard. There's nothing that anyone can do to us that hasn't already been done, aside from just outright killing us. We've had helicopters touch down around our house and troops deployed with guns pointed directly at our home. We have had to move, and then move again, and move, and move, and move. We've had strange people show up at our door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Some of them so whacked out and crazy that it was very difficult to sleep after that. We've had government cars parked in front of our home. We've been threatened on numerous occasions. We've had threats left on our answering machine. We've had people call, and when we answer the phone, nobody answers. And we hang up, it rings again, and there's nobody there again. We go through that drill. We've had stops put on our line where when people call us from all over the country, they're told that our number is no longer in service. All of these things have happened to us. Our lives have been threatened. We've been called anti-Semitic. We've been called race traitors to the white race. We've been called, well, everything. You name it. We've been called it. All because we're doing what we believe is the right thing to do. I'm not telling you this so that any of you will get up on your high horse and feel sorry for it. That's not the purpose of what I'm telling you. I'm telling you this to make you understand that we believe in what we're doing. Not just me, but Annie, and even little Pooh in her limited understanding of all of this. She knows more than any other child in this country. I would venture to say all the way up to the age of 21, probably. She's been traveling with me and listening to my speeches and my radio broadcasts and my practices of speeches and talks and radio broadcasts at home. And she's had many hours of talks with me since she was 1 week old. And I used to talk to her before she was born, when she was still in the womb. So this little girl has an understanding of this that many adults don't have. And she's only 4 years old. We believe in what we are doing. I sincerely believe that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence, and such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. I didn't used to believe that, and I learned that from the Illuminati. And when I look out across this country, I see that what they think about most of us is absolutely true with most of us. And I see that people profess to be patriots and profess to care about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And they love to complain about everything, but when it comes to action, they're just talkers. All talk, no action. Now again, I'm not talking to everyone. Those of you out there who are active and who do understand and who are fighting for freedom, you know that. There seems to be a great number of people in this country who are more concerned with how much money they have in the bank than with how much guarantees they have for their freedoms. And they don't seem to understand that without those guarantees of their freedoms in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, without living in a free republic with sovereign rights for individuals, that they wouldn't have that money in the bank. If they lived in almost any other country on this earth, they would be much poorer than they are now, or they would be destitute or probably would not have ever been born. There are people who bitch and complain and gripe about everything, no matter what it is. You see, I've been in this fight for a long time, and everything I've done has been criticized by someone at some time for some reason. Now, usually, it's by people who are trying to destroy the credibility that I have or destroy my character, thinking that if they attack me and make people think that I'm some kind of a terrible person, then it changes the facts that I'm giving you. And all of a sudden those facts aren't facts anymore, but become something that shouldn't be listened to. The other attacks come from people who've never done anything in their life, aren't doing anything now, and don't like something that I say or a way I pronounce a word or something that I participate in, which has been very little because I really haven't participated in anything except this Constitution Party. Now, the reason I'm talking about this tonight, folks, is because we're down to the wire. And there's two ways to go, and we can go those two ways at the same time. And I believe that we must do that. That we must try every single legal and lawful way that we can to turn things around, and at the same time we must prepare and get ready and train for a war. I've said this over and over and over again. And the whole thrust of everything that I've ever done, from beginning right up to the time that I realized that we had to get ready to fight, was to try to stop bloodshed in this country. So anybody out there who thinks that I've mellowed or changed or anything like that, you're not listening very well. Because I've gotten tougher, and I have called the people of America to arms, and I will continue that. I also called you to join the Constitution Party so that we will have one last chance at a peaceful, bloodless solution. I would be absolutely irresponsible not to. And you would be irresponsible not to give it your fullest attention and your every effort. Unless you're one of these really crazy people that can't wait to kill somebody and see blood running in the streets, then we must do this. Now, so far, we've only had 2 negative phone calls here, and no negative mail yet. And tell you the truth, I expected a lot more. And those negative calls are not the reason that you're hearing this tonight. I'm gearing up for the opposition, you see, because it will come. Those who will see this as a threat will attempt in every way they can to deviate us away from this path, and we must be prepared for that. One of the calls we got today was somebody who didn't think that the Constitution Party was any good because I said mandatory instead of mandatory. Well, I just laugh at that. I mean, that's a waste of time, so I didn't even listen to the rest of his message. He may have said something else constructive. I don't know. But I'm out here on the front line fighting a battle, and you want to give me a test in English. And I just ain't playing that game because I really don't care, you see. Bullets are going to be flying soon, so I really don't care if there are two N's in mandatory or one N in mandatory. It doesn't make any difference to me. The other call you're going to hear right now, because it takes the tone of all of the old BS couch potatoes that I've ever listened to in my life. You know, when Linda called off that march on Washington on September the 19th, after we had talked here, we determined that it was time to call it off. Linda had learned what she needed to learn. I learned what I needed to learn. And you have to remember, this is the intelligence service. People started faxing and calling from all over the place, calling us traitors, because Linda had called off the armed march on Washington. Most of these faxes and letters were not signed. And because they were not signed, I know that the writers of those faxes and letters were cowards and would never have shown up with a gun to march on Washington or anywhere else. They're the people who come over for dinner and you left the beans on the stove a little too long and they got to get a big spoon and stir up the burnt stuff from the bottom so that the whole beans taste bad. You see? And Tim can tell you an awful lot about that. You see, I know something, and Linda knows it too. But we wanted to find out what kind of a stir this would make in government. Who would attack because she did this. And the original idea wasn't hers to begin with, but it was a good way to test the opposition. And what we found out was it scared the hell out of them. They held troops back from deployment. They brought in troops around the Washington, D.C. area, preparing. All kinds of things were happening. In the Patriot movement, we positively identified some that we suspected and began to identify some that we did not. And that's for another time and another day. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, when we did Project 93 in Washington, D.C., nobody could get 1,500 people to march with signs on Washington, D.C. So nobody was afraid that a great army of patriots was going to show up to march on Washington, D.C. with guns. Because if you couldn't get them to hoist a sign up on their shoulder, you're really not going to get them to hoist a gun up on their shoulder. So there was never any fear. But we played the drama out to the end as it was necessary. And some of you out there understand that, and you know why. Linda took a lot of flack from a lot of couch potatoes who've never done anything in their life. And I want to tell you something else. Just because Linda called off a march on Washington on September 19th doesn't mean that all you brave couch potatoes that criticized her and called her names and came down on her and down on me because she called it off can't march on Washington with your weapons all by your little selves. In fact, why don't you all get together, get your guns, and start your march? Personally, I think you're all a bunch of miserable little cowards and never would have showed up in the beginning, and you're sure not going to march without Linda to lead you, because without Linda, you're nothing. She has more guts than all of you put together. And that's the truth. And if you don't believe me, you watch on September 19th and see how many of you lily-livered warmongers muster with guns and march. When Americans get fed up and the time is right, I have no doubt that the real patriots in this country will stand up with weapons and will make a valiant attempt and may be successful in reinstating the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. In any event, there are many of us who will fight, and will fight for as long as it takes or as long as we live. It makes no difference. In the meantime, in the interest of doing what is right, and in the interest of being responsible, we will back this Constitution party, and we will attempt to make it work, as I know it will, if everyone gets behind it, and if there's a grassroots groundswell of interest, and the people are really truthful in wanting to reinstate the Constitution. You see, the only reason we're losing this war is the enemy occupies the government. If we can oust them and occupy those positions ourselves, and then when we're in those positions, fire the bureaucrats who are entrenched in the civil service, and put in good American patriots, reinstitute the loyalty oath, then we can have our country back, we can have our liberties back, and we can have our Constitution and Bill of Rights back. We can arrest the traitors, try them legally and lawfully, and if found guilty, the judge, whoever it may be, will order the proper punishment. I don't want to and have never wanted to see blood run in the streets of America. However, if it comes to that, I will be in the forefront, as I've always been out in front leading, as I've always been out in front sticking my neck over the cliff while the rest of you have hovered back and hid behind the trees or in your closets. I will be out in front when it comes to war. And I will probably be one of the first to fall because of that, and I don't care. But we are down to the wire. With the passage of this crime bill, a police state was instituted, one that will make Hitler's Gestapo look like a bunch of Sunday school children in the park. You haven't read the crime bill yet. Neither has your congressman. Neither has your senator. They voted on it and passed it, and none of them even had a copy. None of them had read it. That's how far gone we are. All of them were saying that the people in their district were demanding that they pass a crime bill. It was a lie. Every poll taken across this nation said that Americans did not want the crime bill. Unless we can put patriots in positions of power, there will be no political solution. And unless we can gain control of the executive branch of government, there will be no relief in the courts. And the federal government is getting worse and worse every day. Just about a week ago in New Mexico, 2 people were fishing on the bank. They finished their fishing, got in their car, and started to drive away, and were stopped by a federal ranger. That's right, folks. A ranger. ordered them out of their vehicle, searched their vehicle, beat them with the butt of a shotgun, fired the shotgun into the ground near one of their small children. The blast from the shotgun ricocheted off the ground and blew out one of their tires. And an Indian and some other people came by and stopped him, or he probably would have killed those people. They were not arrested. There were no charges pressed against them. But the strangest thing is that the ranger who did all of this was not arrested. He remains free. And if I can get all the newspaper articles, I'll read those to you tomorrow night. But it's time, folks, for the couch potatoes to stop being couch potatoes. It's time for the lily-livered people who hide back there in the shadows to stop their attacks upon those of us who are out here leading the fight. If you were out here leading the fight with me, it wouldn't bother me, because I would have a lot of respect for you. And if you had a legitimate gripe with me, I certainly would want to listen to it. But when you're back there in the shadows hiding, when all you can tell me is you don't want to get on somebody's list, or that Linda's a traitor because she decided not to march on Washington with a bunch of idiots with guns, then there's something wrong with you. Something terribly wrong with you. And you are the kind of people who scare me to death. You see, the enemy doesn't scare me. You scare me. Once this war starts, it's going to start as a bunch of patriots wanting to reinstate the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. And it's going to break down into a racial, religious war. And the idiots like you can't wait to kill somebody, are going to commit terrible, terrible acts. I know this because I saw what happened in Vietnam when troops, disciplined under the command of officers, committed terrible atrocities simply because they could get away with it, and for no other reason. One man I knew in Vietnam by day walked around preaching the Bible to everyone, and by night he killed everything that walked, talked, crawled, quacked, squawked, squealed, or cried. I know what's coming. Most of you don't have the slightest idea. And some of you stinking little Rambos that can't wait for it to start so that you can get some blood on your hands and a notch on your gun are more dangerous than any New World Order. I hope you all understand what I'm talking about. We must get active. We must be enthusiastic. We must become passionate about the Constitution Party. We must register this party in every state. We must proselytize every voter that we can possibly change over to us. And we must put hardcore constitutional Americans in government. If we fail, the only alternative is a horror that you cannot even imagine. And don't listen to all the Vietnam veterans that you talk to, because out of the millions of men who went to Vietnam, and women, only a very small percentage actually participated in real combat. Most so-called combat veterans can be spotted by a real combat veteran in 10 seconds, but if you've never been in combat, you'll sit there and listen to their stories all night, not realizing that they're all made up. Make sure that when you talk to a Vietnam veteran about the war, if he even wants to talk about the war, and most of us don't really like to talk about it at all, Make sure when you listen to one of them that you really listen, because they'll tell you the real truth about war. There's nothing glamorous about it. There aren't any real heroes. And in the midst of a battle when bullets are flying, everybody is fighting just for themselves and for their friends. They forget about their country. They forget about all of that stuff. They fight to stay alive. They fight for themselves and for their friends. And when you hear your friend wounded and crying in anguish, you'll wish that you never saw a movie called Rambo. Sly Stallone's probably a real good guy, but he makes cruddy movies. This is for all of you. You always have to have a reason not to get involved. Like John. This is what happened when me and Ferris wanted to go out on Lyman Lake and become pirates.
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it, and I don't want to do it. It's tacky. And don't look at me that way.
Well, if you don't like it, what do you want?
I want to sing and dance. I want to sing and dance. I want to be a pirate in the pirate captain dance, wearing silver buckle slippers and me tight shiny pants. I want to sing and dance.
You want to sing and dance? Ah, well, you don't like blundering, eh? Shiver me timbers, how about treasuring, huh? Rubies and emeralds, pearls and gold doubloons, British sovereigns, silver chalices encrusted with diamonds and jewels, necklaces and bracelets of every shape and size, fit for the crown heads of Europe, eh? And all buried in a pirate's chest, and I just happen to know where. How about that?
Like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it, and I don't want it.
You don't want it?
And I won't do it. I'm an artiste.
An artiste? Well, Mr. Artiste, what do you want?
I want to sing and dance. I want to sing and dance. I want to be a pirate in the pirate up and dance, wearing silver buckle slippers and me tight shiny pants. I want to sing and dance.
Listen here, this ain't no floating Gilbert and Sullivan show, you know, with some little flitting tinkerbell. This here be a black-hearted pirate ship, and it would have your keel on if you were my own flesh and blood, you little twit. So you don't like plundering, eh?
I don't like it.
And you don't want no treasuring, huh?
I don't want it.
And you probably don't want no grogging and reveling and winching and rumming either, I suppose.
Well, deep down, you want to know the truth? It's not me. I don't want it.
Well, what do you want? As if I didn't already bleeding know.
I want to sing and dance and...
I know, but where you tight little shiny pants. Okay, we'll all sing and dance. I said we'll all sing and dance. So you walk the plank. 1, 2, 3. I want to sing and dance. I want to sing and dance. I want to be a pirate in the pirate top and dance.
I like it.
Better like it my own son.
I thought you would.
I want to sing and dance. Sing men on a gentleman's set. Young Rumbo and a bottle of rum.
I don't like rum.
You don't like rum?
Well, no, actually, I might like a little Perrier with a lime in it.
A little Perrier with a lime in it. He wants a lime in it.
Well, do you have any escargot?
Escargot what?
What's the soup today?
Soup?
Might have a bit of a salad, too.
Well, how about a bleeding finger bone?
Maybe a croissant.
Folks, the hour of the time is brought to you by Swiss America Trading. Now, when I was in deep trouble down in Phoenix, Swiss America Trading was right there with me. In fact, Gene Miller was in the room when the police barged through the door and arrested me. And you heard his testimony earlier this week about that, or was it last week? I forget now. But anyway, they were there. You see, I could count on them. They purchased commercial time on this program. They were not under any obligation to help me or to show up there or to send $800 down to pay my bond the next morning at all, but they were there. They're there for you too. They specialize in non-reportable, non-confiscatable hard assets, the kind of hard assets that we're all going to need in the coming months and years. That doesn't mean that they'll always be non-confiscatable, because they can issue a decree at any time, banning anything, for any reason, in this new police state. But no matter what they do, there will always be an underground market, and gold and silver will always reign as king and queen on that market. Throughout the history of the world, it's the only thing that people have ever, always really recognized as money, and that has never, ever lost its value. You can buy the same amount of produce or consumables today that you could 150 years ago with the same amount of gold. Call them. If you haven't begun to prepare economically for the hard times ahead, call them. And if you don't want to call them, call somebody. But if you get real worth, real value from this program, the Hour of the Time, then I hope that you would be as loyal to them as they were to me when I needed them. Loyalty is a great attribute. It's what keeps me broadcasting every night. It's what keeps me fighting. Loyalty to God, loyalty to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, loyalty to my family. And I can't say loyalty to the American people, because most of them are sheeple. But definitely I can say loyalty to those good, smart, awake patriots who I know will be standing there with me when the chips are down. That I know will get behind this Constitution Party and make it work all across this country. The number of calls that they received in California today was unbelievable. And if you called and couldn't get through, call again tomorrow. But start preparing now, folks. Call Swiss America Trading. Call them right now. If nobody answers, leave your name and number. Somebody will get with you tomorrow. Tell them what your needs are, what you're thinking about. Listen to their advice. You don't have to take it, but at least listen. If you don't like their advice, give them something that you want. Tell them what you want and say you won't settle for anything less. And they'll figure out a way to make it come true for you. I know they will, because they're my friends. And they care. And it's their business. 1-800-289-2646. That's 1-800-289-2646. One more time. 1-800-289-2646. Do it now, folks. You'll be glad that you did.
Well, the music business been good to me. I had gold records and been on TV, but mostly I've just tried to make folks laugh so far.
See, those of us who live out here in the West know that your march on Washington wouldn't have worked, folks, because you didn't have a hat.
Country hunk record star. Well, I went right out and bought a Cadillac, wire wheels all around, one on the back. I bought a flat top guitar and learned a few chords from the shed. And then I went right out and bought some skin-tight jeans. I thought I'd saw them everything, but my manager said, "Hold it, son, you ain't ready yet." He said, "You gotta have a hat, great big hat. If you're gonna be a country hunk, a hat wear is that." He said, "I ain't kidding. This ain't just Oakland. Look at straight, black, crook, man, shelter, yoke. And if you want to be a country home, you gotta have a hat. Well, my manager's right smack on the beam. I put on his hat and women started to scream. They was tearing it for clothes and throwing me their motel keys. I couldn't wear this hat out anywhere, 'cause everywhere I'd go, screaming women were there. Had to hire myself around the clock.
Okay, folks, listen very carefully to this, because this is what I've been talking about.
Yeah, I'm calling with probably what must be your first negative call on the Constitution Party. I don't know if there's some ulterior motive that we don't know about for you wanting to get involved in this, but it seems totally out of character unless the feds got to you with their little attack against you, your wife, and your daughter last week, or 2 weeks ago, and you've kind of mellowed out a bit now. Hopefully that's not the case. I don't think it is. I think you've got ulterior motives for using this party and giving people some kind of hope that there might be a legislative alternative to all this. I don't think there is, and I hope that you'll get off of this Constitution Party kick ASAP, because it's not going to work. There isn't enough time left. You know that. And let's get back to military preparation for what's coming down. Also, I have my serious concerns about
Monday, 11:20.
Well, folks, we didn't cut him off. He hung up without finishing whatever it was that he had to say there. But this is one of those people who can't chew gum and walk. He thinks because we're going to try very hard, one last chance at a peaceful solution, that we can't prepare to fight for our liberties at the same time. Well, he's wrong. And all of you who think that way are wrong. And all of you who would rather fight than try to arrive at a peaceful solution are sick. Really sick. And usually when I see people like that, they haven't really seen war and what it can do. I have. And I don't want to see it in this country. If it becomes inevitable, if it's unavoidable, if it must be, I will be out in front leading people like you just heard. And so will a lot of others. And I'll be leading for a long time, as long as I last. You see, because I'm not a whiner, I'm not a complainer, I'm not someone who says we can't do it. We can do whatever we set our minds to do. We can make work whatever we wish to make work. You forget, all of you, and I'm talking to everybody now, I don't care who you are, you forget that we're in this situation because we were stupid, we were apathetic, we were ignorant, and we were asleep. So when you get right down to it, you can blame it on anybody you want to. It's our fault. Our fault. Mine and yours and everybody else's. We brought us to this point in time. And we are going to have to get ourselves out of this situation. By hook or crook, by peace or by bloodshed, and maybe by a little or a lot of both. But whatever it is, we must get behind it and do it. I don't want to hear any bellyachers. I don't want to hear any criers. I don't want to hear any whiners. I don't want to hear rumors. I don't want criticism from couch potatoes. My butt is out here on the line. It's been out here for years. I have suffered physically, financially. My family has suffered. And we will continue as long as it's necessary, because I sincerely believe that any man or woman without principles that they're ready and willing to die for at any given moment if they are called upon to do so, are already dead and are of no use or consequence to anyone, not even themselves. I want to see you people get out of your closets, get out from under your covers, stop hiding behind the bushes, get out here with us, stick your butt out on the line, and get active. Get in this fight, because if you don't, we're going to lose it. Get in the Constitution Party, back it, become active, work at it, volunteer your services, run for office, make it work. At the same time, clean your weapons, build up your supplies, make sure you have plenty of stored food on hand. Train yourself and your family, form militia units, because if necessary, we will have to fight for our liberties. And we can do both of these at the same time. And if you can't chew gum and walk at the same time, then I don't want you around me. I'm sick and tired of being second guessed. I'm tired of getting criticism from people whose name nobody knows and hasn't done a damn thing in their life for anybody but themselves. And I really don't give a damn what you think about that statement or about me. You know me, I'm up front. Nobody ever has to guess about what I'm thinking about or where I stand or what my loyalties are or whether or not I'll fight. I've already been in a war. I have several medals with V for valor attached to them. I fought on a patrol boat in the middle of a river in the middle of the night, where there were no trees to hide behind, and the deck we stood on wasn't soft enough to dig a foxhole in it. And I've been out here fighting for years in the forefront. So don't ever question, don't ever, in your wildest dreams, question my loyalties or my willingness to fight. Because I was fighting before most of you ever even dreamed that there was anything to fight about. And my family's been right with me every step of the way. And I might add some very good friends. I've truly been blessed because my grandfather told me, he said, son, when you die, if you can count one good friend on the fingers of your hands, then you've done good. And if when you die, you don't have any enemies, then you never did anything right. So I've been blessed. I can count more than one good friend on the fingers of my hands. I'm not going to tell you how many, but quite a few more. And I got plenty of enemies. Now, how many of you can say that? How many of you live your lives doing everything that you can not to make any enemies? Oh, I can't say that. Somebody might not like it. Oh, if I get involved in that, my friends will leave me. Don't you understand that if they would leave you, that they're not your friends to begin with? You're worried about the wrong people. It's the ones who stick with you that are important, that are truly your friends. Oh, we got about 5 minutes and somebody's on the line. Let's hear what they have to say. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yes, hi, Bill. This is Jenny. How are you?
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. There's a little delayed reaction, I guess, from my speaker. But I totally agree with you. You know, if they're not really a friend and not really there with you through the tough times, you don't need them anyways. I'm totally behind the Constitutional Party, and I really want to see the men of this nation rise up and get prepared for both. If we can take the country back legally as we, grease our guns, so be it. Let's do it. But I want to see the guys get a balance on what's going on out there and not running around half-cocked like a bunch of bozos ready to just shoot moves, but yet still be trained.
I love the way you put it. Isn't it strange that men were criticizing Linda Thompson for having more guts than most men have?
Well, I like to say it like this. I don't really think a man would criticize.
Oh, but they have.
Well, they may be in a man's body, but a real man.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Spirit would not criticize something so protective of the family unit and of this country.
Yeah, you're correct. I understand what you're getting at now. Yes, you're right.
Well, God bless you, and I'm for the Constitutional Party. I just have one little thing I want to say, and hopefully it'll get, you'll consider it.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, several years ago to put me on national TV and on all sorts of different shows because of my experience with abortion personally. And I got very politically involved in that area, too, because of what God dealt with me on. Coming full circle through the experience several times.
Mm-hmm.
And He's used me in powerful ways that way. And one thing, when I replayed your tape from recording the Constitutional Party's stands the other day, I listened to it today, and it would almost be better, I think, if it's not even mentioned, because the Constitution, if I read it correctly, is always on the side of the innocent, especially children victims. Whether they're born or unborn is how I see that in the Constitution. And I just thought I'd throw that on the table and let you chew on it. I hope that you will rechew that thing and see what you come up with, because our tax dollars shouldn't go for it. A woman should have her right, as I had at one time gone through that experience personally, but I'll tell you what, I was wrong.
Yeah, but that's your choice to make.
Right, but the Constitution's behind the victim and the innocent people as well, is it not?
Well, the Constitution protects rights. It does not make moral judgments. We have to make those moral judgments, and we have to pay for our decisions, either with God or with the law.
Well, let me just throw this out, and then I'll say.
Well, first, let me tell you, if you listen to this program, you know that I'm against abortion. I think abortion is murder.
I understand, and I know it is. Being a participant in it directly, I understand it real well. But what I'm saying is, if I draw a line and I'm on one side and you're on the other, correct? And I stand on my side of the line and I turn and I twirl with my fist sticking out just as much as I want, I'm okay. But when I get closer and closer to that line and then I finally strike another human being, then I've crossed the line from moral to actually, affecting other people.
Yeah, but you don't understand. That has to be decided on a local level. It is not the United States government's business to legislate morals.
Well, I understand. I agree with that.
And that's what we stand for. If you, in your little town, your community, or your county, or your state want to legislate against abortion, that's your business because you people live there. And that's the constitutional way. But it is not the government's business to tell any of us how to live our lives as long as we're within the law.
I totally agree with you. I totally see what you're saying. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Yeah, folks, we're not for abortion. Neither are we taking any stand for or against it except on a personal level, and that's as it should be. The government has no business dictating morals to anyone. When the government gets in the business of dictating morals, you better watch out, because the government is going to become a state religion very quickly. And that's where they're headed, in case you hadn't realized that. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hi, Bill.
Yeah, did you just burp?
No.
Just joking.
Oh, I didn't. My name is Todd. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Todd, can you quit squeezing your phone or whatever you're doing?
Oh, yeah, it does make a lot of noise. It could be my whiskers rubbing up against it, too.
Whatever. We're almost out of time.
I realize that. I just wanted to call to say that I was one of those people who supported Linda and what she was going to do, and I was frustrated to the point thinking that politics didn't work. And I did contact the Constitution Party today.
Great.
And volunteered every effort that I can do. Now, I'm certainly ready for whatever might happen whichever way it might go, and I hope that doesn't qualify me as a Rambo.
No, because I'm ready too. But I don't want to see it happen.
No, I would. That's the last thing I want to see happen.
Rambo's looking forward to it. He can't wait to dip his knife in somebody's guts and stick it around and get some blood on it.
Well, I just, I was at the end of my rope with the political game, and I guess I thought that what Linda was saying needed to be said at that time, and if need be, maybe needed to be done too.
Yes.
Well, that's
but there could not be allowed any march by patriots on the city of Washington. They would have been totally destroyed.
Absolutely.
And right now, over in Bosnia, in fact, you'll see it in one of the magazines. I forget which one it is, but the Muslims were just marching across the open, attacking machine guns, and they were mowed down by the thousands.
Well, I don't want to see that happen here.
I don't either. If we fight a war, it's going to have to be a guerrilla war.
That's right. All right. Well, I thank you, and you do a great service to us, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, folks, I think it's that time, whatever time that happens to be, and I want you to listen. Oh, by the way, folks, the movie Rambo was not... Well, you got the characters mixed up, see? Because Lieutenant Colonel James Bo Grice is a lieutenant colonel. He was the commander who instigated these things, you see. He was not Rambo. Rambo was an enlisted man who suffered from post-traumatic delayed stress syndrome, Vietnam. And if you watch the movies, you'll see who Colonel Grice was. Colonel Grice was the guy that was always screwing Rambo. How come you always fall for this propaganda? Watch the movie again. Get the real meaning out of the movie. Yeah, the movies were based upon the episodes of Lieutenant Colonel James Bobo Grits. And if you watch the movies, you'll see who he really was and who he really is. He wasn't Sylvester Stallone. Good night, folks, and God bless you all.
I got a letter from the IRS inviting me to be their guest at an audit they were conducting just for me. They said no need to worry, probably nothing wrong. Just bring your wife and children along. We just need to clear up a small technicality. Now the only problem with an audit is my wife Juanita and our 14 kids, Brent, you cannot believe the refunds they have been worth. But it was years ago that I got this idea. I bought Juanita through the mail from Korea. She's an inflatable doll, but she came with a certificate of birth. I was a single guy without any deduction, so I claimed Juanita, and what a reduction I received with her as my spouse on the taxes I paid. That worked so well that every year after that I reported a birth when I paid my tax, each kid certified by Cabbage Patch USA. Oh, Juanita, my inflatable senorita, the IRS wants to take you and the children away. You and Jim and Sammy, Lonnie and Bert, Farrah, Charo, Michael and Kurt, and Dean, Earlene, Louise, Barbara, and